Honestly, I don't remember anything of the last hour of yesterday's show. I know, isn't it odd? I had a terrible migraine, and I sort of remember bits of it, and then suddenly I woke up in a very cold bedroom, sort of feeling all right. So I hope I wasn't rude to anyone on air. Wouldn't that have been awful if I'd gone on some sort of drunken rant on air? Would have been very listenable, actually. I say awful. It could have been perhaps the best. That could have been Sony Gold. Anyway, good morning. It's Wednesday, it's just gone 6 o'clock. This is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio. Lots coming up, and as always, would love your opinion on some of these stories, including the mother of Gary McKinnon welcomes the decision not to extradite him to the US. She'll be on this programme after 8 o'clock. Why you won't need money or your mobile at car parks in the Three Counties. And the mum of the Great British Bake Off winner. It's a TV show, if you didn't know. Said it was the first thing he'd ever won. I want to celebrate what we're good at in the Three Counties today. So I want to know, dear listener, what have you won? What have you come first in? What are you the best at? You can get in touch lots of different ways. You can email 3cr@bbc.co.uk. You can text 81333, starting your text 3CR, or you can give me a call, 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Now, whatever your thoughts on whether Gary McKinnon should have been extradited or shouldn't, and I'm still not quite sure how I feel on this. Part of me does think, yeah, up yours, America. Yeah. I've suddenly got a bit more patriotic since America have said, oh, we're really disappointed that you've not extradited the computer hacker. I'm thinking, yeah? What? We used to own your country, huh? So don't start bossing. We did. We used to own them. And then we let them have it back in 1776 when we got a little bit bored of it. But it is the story that's all over the front pages today. The Hertfordshire mother of British computer hacker Gary McKinnon has welcomed Home Secretary Theresa May's decision to block his extradition to the US. Janice Sharp said she was overwhelmed after an emotional rollercoaster, and she said Mrs May had been incredibly brave to stand up to the US. The 46-year-old, who has Asperger's syndrome, admitted accessing Pentagon computers from his bedroom in North London, but he says he was only looking for information on UFOs. Now the Home Secretary has blocked his extradition over concerns about his mental health. This is what Theresa May told the House of Commons.
After careful consideration of all of the relevant material, I have concluded that Mr McKinnon's extradition would give rise to such a high risk of him ending his life that a decision to extradite would be incompatible with Mr McKinnon's human rights.
Well, it's the first time a Home Secretary has stepped in to block an extradition to America since the current treaty with the United States was brought in after 9/11. Gary's mum, Janice Sharp, said she was overwhelmed by the decision, and she described Gary's reaction to the news.
It's still incredibly emotional. He couldn't speak. He actually literally couldn't speak, and then he cried, and then he hugged, and he cried, and it's been hugging and crying, and it's so emotional. I know it seems odd that I'm tearful now, but it's a culmination of 10 years and 7 months, and it's just so emotional, and it'll take time to be back to having a normal life.
Well, as I said, the decision has been welcomed here, not gone down so well in Washington. The US authorities have described Mr McKinnon's actions as the biggest military computer hack of all time since the film War Games. Prosecutors claim he changed passwords, deleted files and altered accounts. David Rivkin is an American lawyer and former White House counsel to Presidents Reagan and Bush. He says today's decision is laughable.
We have a very humane, very just justice system in the United States. If a person is not fit to stand trial, his lawyers and psychiatrists would argue in favor of that. If a person needs a special accommodation, he would get it. Again, under that logic, anybody who claims some kind of physical or mental problem can commit crimes of impunity and get away with it.
Did he just say that they have a humane legal system in America? The place where they have the death penalty, yeah? Humane. OK. No worries. To try and prevent cases like this dragging on so long, changes are being made to the extradition system. The Home Secretary says in future, British courts will be given more powers to decide whether a suspect should stand trial here or abroad. But the announcement has come too late for Baba Ahmed, who was deported to the US 2 weeks ago to face terrorism charges. His family have accused the government of double standards. Here's the BBC's legal correspondent, Clive Coleman.
At the heart of so many of these high-profile extradition cases has been this question: I'm a UK citizen, I'm accused of a crime that was committed in the UK, why can't I be tried by a UK court? She's introduced now, or is going to introduce, a test whereby a British court can make a judgment as to whether it's in the interests of justice for someone who's accused should be tried here or should be extradited.
So, Gary McKinnon and his supporters breathing a sigh of relief. He's not out of the woods yet, though. The Director of Public Prosecutions will now look at the evidence against him to see if he should stand trial here in the UK. If you've got any opinions on this, 08459 455 555. And Janice Sharp, Gary McKinnon's mum, will be on this show after 8 o'clock. It's a worrying day. It's a worrying day. I agree with the front page of the Daily Mail. What have I become? I agree with the front page of the Daily Mail. What's happened to me? Should we have a quick look at some of the front pages of the newspapers? They've just arrived, so let's see... Oh, look, they're all stashed in there. Let's see what we've got. The Daily Telegraph. Letters a threat. Oh, this is interesting. This is Dominic Grieve. Letters a threat to Charles as King. Attorney General... I was listening to this on the radio yesterday. Attorney General says publication of Prince's views would undermine his ability to rule. The Prince of Wales' letters to ministers must be kept secret because their contents would seriously damage his future role as king. Were they ever made public? The Attorney-General ruled yesterday. Dominic Grieve moved to avert a constitutional crisis by blocking the release of 27 letters containing particularly frank views that could cast doubt on the Prince's political neutrality. This was after it was ruled by 3 judges, yes, these letters can be released. Then Dominic Grieve stuck his beak in and said, actually, no, I've got the final say in this, we're not going to release them. Which I think is a shame, really. The Times. Now Gove rewrites the rule on A-levels. Michael Gove is planning an overhaul of A-levels. Oh, my goodness gracious me. And waterlogged in Warsaw, a frustrated Royal Express. As you may know, dear listener, I'm not a football fan, but I was enjoying the furore on Twitter last night. Reading about this football match that didn't happen because it was raining. And I thought, well, you know, that happens. Football matches are rained off. And then I discovered the stadium has a roof. They didn't... Can anyone explain to me, in simple terms, please, why they didn't close the roof? Does anyone know? 08459 455 555. The Independent. They've got a picture of Gary McKinnon there, who we'll be talking about later on, talking to his mum. And Hillsborough's families celebrate breakthrough over new inquest. They've also got Dominic Grieve on the front page as well, on the Indie. The Guardian. After 10 years, hacker spared... Dominic Grieve's all over the front pages. He's one of ours, isn't he? The government bar's release of Charles's letters is the front page of The Guardian. It's Grieve everywhere, apart from the Daily Mail. A great day for Gary and British justice. They agree with me, basically, that we've stuck 2 fingers up to the United States of America, and good for us. The Daily Express. French invade British waters. Don't worry, they're just scallop fishermen. Daily Mirror, my 32 years with Savile, exclusive by his assistant, Janet Cope. And The Sun, BBC covered up pedo scandal number 2. And then they have some pictures of some young women in their pants on the top there. You've got to love that cackle. The JVS cackle. I was complaining yesterday I was a little bit smelly. I didn't have any deodorant. I bought some deodorant yesterday. I can only find women's deodorant. So I smell of girls. I smell hot. 08459. Sorry, that's a terrible image to put in your head, isn't it? I'll shut up and let Michael Jackson do his thing. OK, we've had a text from Tim. Thank you, Tim. 81333, starting your text 3CR, as to why they couldn't close the roof yesterday for the football match. It was too windy to close the roof. That's not true, is it? It's a roof! Just close the roof! I can imagine... If you were all excited about the game last night, I wasn't. I didn't even know it was happening, if I'm honest. If you were all excited about the game and were watching it unfold in front of you, could you give me a call and let me know how you feel? 08459 455 555. There'll be people... I think the first flight back to Luton from Poland gets in about 7:30 or something. So we may have people listening to the show a bit later on who've landed. Or maybe you've got a husband or a boyfriend or a wife or girlfriend who's coming back this morning from Poland. If so, have you spoken to them? Could you give us a call and let us know how gutted they were to have missed the game? I'm guessing most of them won't be able to stay out there for another night. 08459 455 555. Here's the weather with Steve.
Did they get their money back on the tickets? And there's your weather forecast from me, Steve Weston.
Steve, you mentioned the possibility of them getting their money back. I believe that a Polish official was very upset when someone suggested that might be the case.
But you paid for something to happen and it didn't happen.
Well, listen, we've all been there, Steve. Let's not go into our personal lives. Steve Weston, thank you very much. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number if you give us a call. I don't know. Will they get their money back? I would be surprised if they did get their tickets back. They won't get the cost of flying out to Poland back, that much is sure. Now, if you've been the victim of crime, then you'll know how much of an impact it can have on your life. But how much of a difference would compensation make? The union representing shop workers is calling on the government not to cut its compensation scheme for the victims of crime. USDAW, USDAW, says that its members are often subject to attacks, some of them violent. Today, along with other campaigners, it will tell MPs how important the criminal injuries compensation scheme is in helping innocent victims come through their ordeal and get back on their feet. Over 3 years ago, a Luton shopkeeper was murdered, but the family of Jashbhai Patel, who was otherwise known as Mr. Moon, have got the shop up and running again. Our reporter, Tony Fisher, has been speaking to Jashbhai's son, Amit, in the shop in Park Street and asked him about the compensation they received.
Without the money, we'd have sunk, basically. And as we can see, we're in the shop, it's thriving, people are coming in all the time. And so, as you're saying, without that money, the business would have collapsed. Yeah, we wouldn't be able to survive, basically. What difference did the compensation make to you and your family? It gave us a base to start from again. That's what it did. It helped us build the business back up so that Mum had an income. Because me and my sister are of age to earn ourselves. So basically whatever we received as children was it was fine. Incidental to what your mum received to help with the shop? Yeah. Mum's was enough to pay for the refurb, basically. And put in proper security and a proper shop? Yeah. Fire alarm system connected to the police. If that weren't to be the case in the future, what would you say? Basically, Mum would have to live with me and she'd have nothing because Dad was the main breadwinner in the house. So you're thankful for the compensation that you got, and if it was all taken away... No, they shouldn't take it away. If anything, they should improve it, not take it away. But it does depend on each circumstance. Each circumstance is different. Nothing is the same. See, if we were rich, as it were, and my dad had passed, then the compensation wouldn't have made any difference. But because we didn't have anything, that compensation made all the difference.
Tony Fisher, our reporter there, speaking to Amit Patel. Give us a call, let us know what you think about that. 08459 455 555. I should just say, and in case you're unaware of this, between 3 and 7 weekdays on BBC Three Counties Radio is the excellent Roberto Perroni. There's a lot of rolling of his R's. I've been listening to a lot of Roberto recently. A lot of rolling of his R's. Oh, that sounded rude, didn't it? I didn't mean it to, but there you go. I can't do it properly. He has the best stories from across the 3 counties from amazing local people. And he has a roundtable discussion from 6 tonight. Family and lifestyle. Roberto Perroni, weekdays from 3pm on BBC Three Counties Radio. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number if you want to give us a call. One thing, I would really like someone to call me up and explain this football situation about the roof of the stadium. It can't be because it was too windy. Could it? That's the reason they didn't close it. Apparently Adrian Chiles, who is, I think, one of the most hated men in Britain. Apparently. I've always quite liked him. I met him a couple of times. He was very pleasant to me. Very pleasant. I met him and David Cameron once on The One Show. David Cameron was a little bit rude. Adrian Chiles, very, very pleasant to me. I don't quite know why he's so disliked. But apparently he was hilarious last night with his non-commentary an assessment of the situation. If you saw it... Could you give me a call and let me know? 08459 455 555. And I would love to talk to you if you've got a friend, a relative, a loved one who went to Poland to see the match last night and they didn't, and they're coming back today. Have you spoken to them? I bet they were furious, weren't they? I bet they were furious. Could you give us a call?
Call 08459 455 555.
08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Unopposed, you say? That sounds like a challenge to me. Coming up in the next half hour of the show, why didn't England's game against Poland go ahead? Surely could have just put the roof on, or am I being stupid? And BBC Three Counties reporter Justin Dealey, who it turns out is the most competitive man in the world, we discovered in the office today, is visiting the Luton project that's appearing on tonight's National Lottery show. They're going to need your votes. 08459 455 555. Now, 2 football matches last night, of course. There was the adults and there was the kids, the under-21s. And that was kind of marred, the under-21s. The Football Association has officially complained to the sport's European governing body, UEFA, about racist abuse directed at England under-21 players in Serbia last night. England won the match in Kruševac to qualify for next summer's European Championship. But there was a brawl on the pitch involving both sides. The England coach, Stuart Pearce, said he was very proud of the way his players dealt with the situation. The senior team's World Cup qualifier in Warsaw was rained off. Polish authorities had decided not to close the roof on the stadium. The match has been rescheduled for this afternoon. What on earth is going on? We can speak now to Gavin Lee. Morning, Gavin.
Morning, Ian.
What a mess for football.
Yeah, and starting with the under-21s game, it all seemed to be going okay. There was a moment just after half-time where it looked pretty ugly because lots of the Serbian crowd started to throw coins, other missiles, chairs, including at Stuart Pearce as well, had a chair thrown at him.
A chair thrown at him?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't bordering on racism at that time and racism incidents.
It was just violent thuggery at that time.
It was just absolutely old-fashioned thuggery. And then what happened late on, as England scored the winning goal and it ended 1-0, I've seen some of this footage since. One of the football commentators described it as hell breaking loose, and I think that's pretty accurate because there's a pitch invasion by the fans. One of the England players, Danny Rose, who's black, was actually sent off after the final whistle. This brawl happened between the players. He's since said there were racist chants coming from the Serbian fans. They were monkey chanting at him.
He did a little, as he walked off, he kind of did a monkey sign to imply that he was being shouted at, didn't he?
Yeah, and there's an issue that the FA have with the fact that a lot of players seem to be extremely violent from the Serbian side as well, and there was one sending off. The England team, all of them, looked pretty shocked with what happened, including Stuart Pearce, and the technical director of the Serbian side, about 10 minutes after things calmed down a little bit, went to the England dressing room. He apologised for any unsavoury behaviour that had taken place, but I don't think that's going to cover it.
What's going to happen next? Do we boot Serbia out? Surely they should get I saw someone on Twitter say give them a 10-year ban.
I've seen all sorts of some of the players actually on Twitter saying that they should be banned from tournament football. The former England player Paul Ince was there. He was watching Tom Ince, the Blackpool player, playing. He said he was really fearing for the safety of his son and himself in the crowd as well. He said they should be banned from tournament football. The FA have made it a very stern complaint to UEFA about it, saying it condemns the racism and the confrontation at the final whistle, which it says our players and staff were under extreme provocation. I guess it's in the hands of UEFA. We expect probably around lunchtime or early this afternoon to have a statement.
There's a history of this before in Serbia, isn't there? They've got previous.
Yeah, going back 5 years, bad blood with a match in Amsterdam. The Serbian under-21s again, the Football Federation being fined £16,000 at the time because supporters racially abused another England player. Yeah, so I think because the reason the players and the reason former players want a much harsher penalty is the lack of control Serbia have had over its fans.
Boo them out. It seems obvious. Listen, you once, okay, maybe, I mean, it's still unacceptable, but give them a chance. If they got previous, just boot them out of the tournament. We don't want that kind of nonsense go. We've moved on from that, haven't we?
Well, and the thing is, this year we've seen all of those images from Panorama of the Poland, the Ukrainian racist fans. Yep. I think there was a lot said, certainly in the Eastern Bloc countries, about how they are dealing with the problem. Serbia domestically have had all sorts of problems over the years with similar sorts of racist chanting, and every time a black player comes to play for any of the domestic sides, there have been issues. I was looking back into sort of Serbian football, and it goes back sort of decades. So this is something that I think will take a long time to clean up.
Serbia, Spain, all the others, go and have your own little racist tournament. We're not interested. Speaking of Poland, there was disappointment, wasn't there, last night for the hundreds of England fans who turned up to see the grown-ups play.
Yeah, a couple of things here that strike me as slightly odd. Firstly, officially we're told by the Polish FA that it's in their hands, as we know, to whether or not to cover this stadium. it was raining. Now, the Polish FA have said they didn't know how heavy it was going to rain, so it was the wrong rain, it turned out in the end. It rained very hard, it got very wet. The referee, you've probably seen the picture, Ian, but he comes out on the pitch just before the match, realises the ball's not going to go very far, the players might end up with trench foot if they finish the game like this, and calls it off. So it was a canvas roof. We're told that even when it started to get heavy, they only had till about 6:30, because once the fans came in, you can't, for legal reasons, put a canvas roof on in the stadium if it's rainy or if it's windy.
Right.
And one other point about that, because the fact is it's been delayed, and we played at 4 o'clock today instead. There's been a lot of complaints to the BBC late last night about Ryanair putting its prices up for travel from Warsaw to the UK today. It's being alleged that they're basically profiteering from the fans being stuck, but Ryanair isn't commenting yet this morning.
So hang on, so the price, they're putting the ticket price up?
Well, the price suddenly went up quite rapidly last night as fans obviously were looking to book their flights a day later instead, and obviously their allegation is that all of a sudden Ryanair have cottoned on to this and are gaining from a captive market.
Ryanair profiteering, Gavin Lee, I will not hear a word of that nonsense. Gavin, lovely to talk to you, thank you very much. Bye-bye, there we go, Gavin Lee explaining what was going on. So they couldn't put the roof on because there were fans in the stadium. Oh, man, what a mess. I'm in the Daily Mirror today, I can't believe it. I'm in the Daily Mirror, it's me. I'm in the newspaper. It's not in any way linked with the Savile scandal, let me just clear that up now. Page 25, if you're interested. Me in the Daily Mirror. Come dine with me again and again and again. Fury. As Channel 4 serves up 126 shows in a month. Fury. Basically, they're repeating all the episodes of Come Dine With Me, and a TV source, who's named as a TV source, says there is overkill. This is proof Channel 4 is creatively bankrupt. They do show the same episodes over and over again. I did Come Dine With Me a couple of years ago. The programme has been sold to 35 stations around the world. There have been celebrity versions with stars... Yes, including Debbie McGee, Iain Lee, that's me, Lembit Opik, who was irritating, and Jodie Marsh, who was bonkers but delightful. I look really chubby there. That was in Jodie Marsh's house. It's interesting that has come up, actually, because one of the things we want to talk about today is things that you have won. Things that you have won. I'm gonna... If you're a fan of the Great British Bake Off, and you taped it, and you haven't seen it yet... Go make yourself a cup of tea, because I'm going to reveal who won last night. If you Sky Plus'd it or you videoed it... Yeah, because it's 1989. I set my timer on my Betamax. No, I'm going to reveal who won it in a second. I want to know, basically, what have you won? I did not win Come Dine With Me. I came... last. I came last. And the reason I came last is because initially I gave Lembit Opik, the former MP and current irritant... I gave him a really low score of 3, and I thought, well, that's going to look a bit harsh. And I said to the producers, I said, can I film that again? I want to give him a higher score. And in me giving him a higher score, despite the fact he was a muppet, it meant that I came last. But what have you won? The winner, here it comes, dear listener, switch off now. The winner of the Great British Bake Off last night. A programme I've only seen one episode of, and I don't get. It's Cooking Intense with Mel and Sue. And I love Mel and Sue. I love Mel in particular. I think she's excellent. But it's Cooking Intense, isn't it? It's intense cooking, intense. The winner was John, the guy with the foppish hair. Not the fellow with the glasses. I thought the lad with the glasses would win. Not the bald old man. He never stood a chance. I thought the fellow with the glasses, it was John. And his mum has said he never won anything before. This was the first thing he won. So we thought that we'd open it up a little bit and ask you, dear listener, what have you won? What are you best at? Actually, I won a few things I've remembered now. I won a Bonnie Baby competition in 1974 at Butlins. Yeah, I know, and my mum still goes on about it. 38 years later, she still bangs on about it. I've also won... Actually, there's quite an impressive list of things I've won. I've won, Mastermind. Yes. I won Mastermind. Yes. I beat a Nolan. I beat Idea Thief Scott Mills. And I beat the bloke that wrote Cracker. Yeah, I won. I've also won The Weakest Link. There was a little bit of cheating going on in that. Let's not go into too much, but I beat Jim Bowen in the final of The Weakest Link. I also won, what's the one that Ainsley used to do? Ready, Steady, Cook. I won that. Oh, dear. I have no idea how I won it. I didn't win Come Dine With Me. But what have you won, dear listener? But phone up. Today is your day to boast and be proud, even if it's absolute tosh, even if it happened 30 years ago, even if everyone else thinks it's a bit silly. I won't. I want you to call up today, 08459 455 555, and show off, be proud, beat your chest, and tell me the things you've won. For a second there, I forgot the phone number of the station. I had to check with the production team. It's 08459 455 555. Oh, Ray Davis. We'll have some of this. And that's a cracking version. That's Ray Davis in the Urban Voices collection. But why do you keep being a revisionist and rewriting history? I interviewed Ray Davis once, and it was as hard work as I expected. He's famously quite a grumpy man, and the interview... It wasn't going very well. And then I said to him, I used to live in Muswell Hill, which of course is where the Kinks are famous from. I used to live in Muswell Hill. As soon as I said that, boom, he was on side. We were chatting about curry houses and the best bars and pubs to go into. As soon as we said that, the interview was fantastic, and he would talk about absolutely anything. Now, a Luton-based project needs your votes. The Community Space Challenge will be shown on tonight's National Lottery Show as the nation chooses its favourite National Lottery good causes. It's in the final of the National Lottery Awards 2012 for Best Environment Project. Paul Pearce is the National Projects Manager for the Community Space Challenge. There's a mouthful of a title. Paul, good morning.
Morning.
It'd be great if you win the award, but I'm guessing it's kind of an achievement to get to this stage. It's given you prominence, isn't it?
It's great, yeah. I mean, it's a really good recognition of all the work that young people have put in around the country. So yeah, it's great. We're really excited.
Can you sum up very quickly, what is the Community Space Challenge?
Yeah, okay. So Community Space Challenge, or CSC, it's a national programme. It's managed by Catch-22, and it works in 70 projects around the country with young people, and it gets young people out improving their local community spaces. So they might be going out doing litter picks, they might be removing graffiti, they might be creating new community gardens, allotments, taking over empty shops and renovating them, holding community events, basically anything that gets young people out improving the communities in which they live.
And where are these young people kind of from? What backgrounds are they from?
They're usually from pretty troubled backgrounds, so... they might be referred by school, they might be referred by social workers or by the police. It's partly it's partly young people who are at risk of being in trouble, really, that we work with. Yeah.
And you've already had a bit of lottery funding, haven't you? How much have you had?
We have. Well, the programme's been running for the last 5 years, so we've had about £8 million.
Wow.
But spread across 70 projects around the country.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
And if it goes well for you tonight, what are you in line for?
We're in line for being recognised as the best environment project in the country, really.
I'm talking the greenbacks,
sorry.
Paul. How much money could you get? Come on, let's speak numbers.
Yeah, the important stuff. Yeah. I mean, if we win, it would be an extra £2,000, which we would use to hold a big party for all our projects and to thank all the young people who've contributed. Around I think we've had about 12,500 young people that have got involved over the last 5 years. So. We probably won't get them all together, but we'll get some of them together to say thank you.
Paul, listen, best of luck. Paul Pearce, National Projects Manager for the Community Space Challenge. We can go now to our reporter. Justin Dealey is with Joan Bailey from the Safer Luton Partnership at Lewsey Community Gardening Project. Morning, Justin.
Iain, I'm outraged.
Why?
Absolutely
What's
outraged. It's chucking it down with rain, it's freezing cold, and I'm stuck on an allotment in Luton.
Oh, Justin, I'm so sorry, because this studio is so warm.
Yes,
Can I have another cup of tea, please? Thank you. Away you go, Justin.
Oh, you're so nice. As you say, I'm with Joan Bailey here, live in Luton. The partnership here secured funding through the Community Space Challenge to deliver a 5-year project within the community of Luton. Joan, welcome to the programme. Thanks for joining us so early this morning. So, this allotment here, take us back, because a few years ago, this was just long grass. Tell us how you've transformed this plot of land here.
Good morning. So absolutely, one of the key aims of the CSC project is to transform spaces. 5 years ago, this was an allotment site that was sitting here, it wasn't being used. The grass was about 4 foot high, and I went down to the council and negotiated the use of this allotment site for the young people to run what was our 5-year project. So the first thing, of course, was the young people came on site and we cut the grass, and then we drew up plans about what we wanted to do here. So over the last 5 years, we've done a number of things. In the first years, the early years, young people learned how to plant seeds, how to grow vegetables, how to make flower gardens, tubs. We actually built a few wooden tubs as well. And once they learnt some of those skills and how to harvest vegetables, we then started to look at doing much more detailed work. So when they grew their vegetables and we harvested them, we then had cook and eat sessions. So they learnt to cook vegetables and learnt to understand how to make healthy meals. And in the latter part of the 5 years, what we've done is thinking about sustainability. We've linked up with lots of the local community and voluntary sector organisations and some of the businesses so that we can continue to sustain this project. So, as Paul says, if we get some money to continue, fantastic. Yeah. But we have actually, in the last 12 months, started to look at long-term sustainability for this area, because we don't want it to go back to the way it was 5 years ago. So we've brought on board lots of people in the local area.
Before we talk about what you've won, one of our talking points this morning, just lastly on this, some people will say, well, how can you get young children involved here? Why is a teenager going to want to grow vegetables on an allotment? You would say, well, hang on a second, give them some credit, because this is what they want to do.
The SLP doesn't just run this project, it runs lots of different projects. And you heard Paul earlier talk about that we work with lots of young people who have very troubled backgrounds. So all of our projects take a holistic approach. They're about developing personal skills, social skills, helping them to do educational work, get back into mainstream school. This project is one of a number that we do that gives them all different kinds of things they can do to actually address some of those issues. So not all of our young people will come to the allotment, but those who want to do things outdoors, those that want to do things that are different, this is one of the projects that will give them that opportunity. But of course they might choose to do other things, but this has been really successful. Lots of our young people just love being out here.
Well, best of luck. Hopefully you'll get that lottery funding for your sake. And Iain, you're talking this morning about things that you've won.
Well, listen, we threw this question to you when you were in the office earlier on, and we went, Justin, do you ever make sure you went, oh yeah, what do you want? I've won loads of stuff. You're very competitive, aren't you?
Absolutely, yeah. Despite losing my driving challenge last week.
Yes, I can see that rankles.
Why did I bring that up? But Joan's with us. Joan, you haven't won anything specifically sport-wise, but you've won lots of things in the raffle. Tell us your number one raffle prize.
I think I've won a lot of bottles of drink, but I won a picture years and years ago, and it was a picture that was painted by a local painter that lives in Dunstable, but he was also the guy who did the picture that was sold at charity that had Tiger Woods on. So I'm hoping that one day this picture I've got is worth some money.
Oh, that'd be
stay
nice.
in contact then, eh? You can buy me a drink if you sell that for a lot of money.
Hopefully I will.
Hey,
Justin, what have you won? Come on, let's rattle through the list of things that Justin Dealey has won.
I won a Spam DJ of the Year award.
What, Spam is in the processed meat?
Yes, if you mention Spam, you got an award, so I thought I'd mention Spam. I got an award for that.
Okay, well done.
What else have I? I've won awards for all sorts of bizarre things in my time.
You're
probably
so modest.
Worst haircut of the year.
Can we just say, Justin, there was a rumour going around the office that you cheated in a pancake tossing competition or something?
Yes,
What was this, please?
This was a pancake race in Luton many years ago, and we had one of our rival radio stations in this race as well.
Losers.
Yes, the losers. But they were winning, and I managed to catch up with him, and he was about to go over the line, so I nudged him over. He's gone flying, and of course we have won the race.
Justin Dealey.
Despite being disqualified, we were still first there.
I think that Savile will be knocked off of the front page of the Daily Mail tomorrow, and Justin Dealey pushing someone from a rival station to win a pancake race.
Quite possibly.
We'll be taking it. Justin, lovely to talk to you. Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye. Good morning. This is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio, here until 9 o'clock. You can get in touch on any of the stories that we're talking about, or any of the stories that you think we should be talking about that maybe we've not covered. I'll give out the phone number and the emails and bits and pieces in a few seconds, so go and get a pen and paper and write it down. Coming up in the next hour of the show, mother of Gary McKinnon welcomes decision not to extradite him to the US. She'll be on this programme just after 8. The ex-girlfriend of Justin Lee Collins, who's from Purton, joins me in the studio. She was subjected to emotional and domestic abuse by the TV presenter. And the mum of the Great British Bake Off says the competition was the first thing he'd won. We're asking you this morning, dear listener, what have you won? What have you come first in? If you want to get in touch, you can email 3cr@bbc.co.uk. You can text 81333, starting your text 3CR, or, and this is the best way, this is the way I'd rather communicate with you, you can phone 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Nick says, Nick has texted in, Nick is furious. It's not good to be so angry first thing in the morning, trust me. It just shows that the so-called producers... He's talking about the Great British Bake Off, I think. It just shows that the so-called producers of TV shows have no imagination if they keep putting rubbish on like them cookery shows and trash like Big Brother, The X Factor, etc. So glad I don't have a telly. You don't have a telly, Nick? That's a bold movement. But yes, a lot of producers in TV don't have any imagination. And they do go, hang on, what's successful at the moment? OK, right, let's do it with Jimmy Carr. And they do. Not Jimmy Carr so much these days. It's Jack Whitehall. Is that his name, the young lad? And it's those kind of bit. It is, isn't it? Let's make that programme with Jack Whitehall. I must admit, I do have a soft spot for Big Brother. It's rubbish. I mean, it is absolute rubbish. But I do quite like it. Now, as you probably heard, a lot of yesterday, and it's in all the papers this morning, the Hertfordshire mother of British computer hacker Gary McKinnon has welcomed Home Secretary Theresa May's decision to block his extradition to the US. Janice Sharp said she was overwhelmed after an emotional rollercoaster, and she said Mrs May had been incredibly brave to stand up to the US. The 46-year-old, who has Asperger's syndrome, admitted accessing Pentagon computers from his bedroom in North London, but he says he was only looking for information on UFOs. Well, now the Home Secretary has blocked his extradition over concerns about his mental health. This is what Theresa May told the House of Commons.
After careful consideration of all of the relevant material, I have concluded that Mr McKinnon's extradition would give rise to such a high risk of him ending his life that a decision to extradite would be incompatible with Mr McKinnon's human rights.
It's the first time a Home Secretary has stepped in to block an extradition to America since the current treaty with the US was brought in after 9/11. Gary's mum, Janice Sharp, said she was overwhelmed by the decision and she'll be on the show just after 8. Alex Massey writes for the political magazine The Spectator and joins me on the line now. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning.
What do you make of Theresa May's decision?
Well, two things to be said. In the first place, if Mr. McKinnon's health really is so in such a poor state, if his mental, if he really is a genuine suicide danger, then Theresa May probably made a correct decision. However, if one can put his health to one side, what we see is the legal case for extraditing McKinnon to the United States was entirely compelling, and that's consistent with the rulings of judge after judge after judge after judge. And so, while one wouldn't want to wish his mental distress upon anyone, it remains the case, and one hopes that he recovers from it. It remains the case that absent that, I think he would be extradited, and I think that would be entirely the correct decision. I think there are a huge number of misconceptions that have coloured the public judgment and indeed the judgment of many members of Parliament in this case, and that's deeply unfortunate.
The argument was that he was a suicide threat, wasn't it? But surely anyone could say, "Whoa, hey, no, don't extradite me. I'm going to kill myself if you do that. I promise I'll do it, honest."
Well, of course, that is theoretically possible. I mean, I think in practice, it's probably unlikely that people who face extradition to the United States or indeed any other country would be able to use this as a tactic. I think because the bar to clear to satisfy that sort of level it is quite high. I mean, there are a number of different psychiatrists who have to agree on these things. But the McKinnon defence that he was some sort of innocent chap just sort of pottering around on the internet looking for evidence about UFOs is not actually the case. His actions were politically motivated. Indeed, his reason for opposing extradition years ago was that he felt he wouldn't be able to get a fair trial in the United States because of his political opinions. It was McKinnon who left messages on army computers in the United States, which is part of being our ally. Defence infrastructure, incidentally. I mean, it's not just messing around online. It was him who left messages saying, US foreign policy is akin to government-sponsored terrorism these days. It was not a mistake. There was a huge security stand-down on September 11th last year. I will continue to disrupt at the highest levels, and so on and so on. Now, judge after judge found that there was absolutely no evidence and no reason to suppose that he would suffer any sort of undue prejudice in the United States court, i.e. that his claims that he couldn't receive a fair trial in the United States and therefore should be tried in the United Kingdom were utterly baseless. And I see no reason to suppose that's an incorrect verdict.
Alex, listen, I'm not particularly patriotic or proud to be British or any of that, but I do kind of feel a certain sense of pride that we've stuck two fingers up to the US.
Well, I think that's the sort of. I think there's a lot of people who do feel that way because, again, I think there is a myth that the extradition treaty between the US and the UK is so-called unbalanced, and again, there is no actual evidence to suppose that is the case. For extraditions from the United States, the UK has to show probable cause, which is the standard definition for an arrest warrant in the United States.
Alex, stay there. We've got to quickly go to Martin Howe. Stay there, Alex. Martin Howe is a human rights lawyer, and he's written about the McKinnon case. Morning, Martin.
Morning.
How are you feeling today about the result?
I think it's the right result. I think it's a compassionate and fair result. I don't think it's a result that sticks two fingers up to the United States.
Right.
It's a case that recognises the rule of law. I mean, there's a previous Lord Chancellor that said, "Be thou ever so high, the law is above you." And Theresa May has looked at this case in the light of what is detailed and extensive medical evidence, and has decided that this man's right to life, which is encompassed and protected by the Human Rights Act, is such that it trumps whatever is going on here with the United States. That is the issue that this case has been decided upon. And your other speaker is right, saying that if he really is in such poor health and is a genuine suicide risk, then this extradition should be stopped. And it has been upon those grounds.
I can't remember which one it was, because there have been so many Home Secretaries who've dealt with this, but one of them said previously, I can't change the extradition ruling on this just because of health reasons. What made Theresa May disagree with that?
Well, she has to be satisfied that the threshold has been passed, and it depends on the quality and nature of the evidence. Now, we haven't, your listeners, your other speaker, myself, we haven't seen the actual medical reports that have been obtained by the government's medical experts along with Gary McKinnon's medical experts. But it's on that, and it's on that alone that this decision has been made. Now, what it does do, though, it does throw a spotlight on the extradition treaty with the United States that's been in existence since 2003. And you'll have seen that perhaps even more important than the specific decision here, Theresa May has said that she is now going to invoke the forum principle. So, if a UK citizen is accused of carrying out a criminal offence that bites in the United States, but all or some of it has been essentially committed here, and in this case we have Gary McKinnon sitting in his girlfriend's bedroom in Wood Green, going into computers. So you can say that the action is actually carried out here. If the action is carried out here, then the courts here are competent and ought to hear it. And also, if the United States wants to rip a UK citizen out of his family, his support, his legal team, everything that we hold dear, to drag them over to the United States to face a trial, then they ought to be able to establish a case here on a prima facie basis.
Martin, very quickly, because we are running out of time. The timing on this is fascinating, and I've heard this argument a few times. On Twitter, Dr. Liam Masavi, a sociology lecturer, has tweeted, "Call me sceptical, but I've got a feeling that if Gary McKinnon was a non-white Muslim, he'd be on the first plane to a US Supermax jail." And there was the fella that was extradited, whose name escapes me, 3 weeks ago, who posted terrorist materials online and was extradited to the US, yet he committed his crime in this country. He had Asperger's as well. It seems a little bit unfair, doesn't it?
Well, on first blush it does look unfair, but let's remember we'd have to see the specific medical evidence, and I do celebrate the change in the law that's about to happen. It's about to redress an imbalance that has gone wrong over the last 10 years.
OK, Martin, thank you very much. Alex, you've got 30 seconds. Anything you'd like to say?
Well, I would just say that I think that the case for trying McKinnon in the United Kingdom is very much weaker than the case for trying him in the United States. The damage that he did was in the United States. The fact that he was sitting in his room in London doesn't impact the fact that he was attacking what is essentially our closest military ally. And I think that he's, while unfortunate to be so ill, he is fortunate not to have been extradited.
Alex Massey, for the political writer for The Spectator, and the other voice you heard there was Martin Rowe, a human rights lawyer. The union representing shop workers is calling on the government not to cut its compensation scheme for the victims of crime. Usdaw says that its members are often subject to attacks, some of them violent. Today, along with other campaigners, it will tell MPs how important the Criminal Injuries Compensation Scheme is in helping people come through their ordeal and get back on their feet. But has the compensation culture gone too far? Jenny Bristow is one of the authors of The Social Cost of Litigation. Morning, Jenny.
Good morning.
Your report was based around health and education.
That's right, yes.
And what exactly did you find?
What we found was, looking at the impact of litigation culture on education and healthcare in the public sector, was that the increased awareness of the problem of litigation led to a situation where professionals are increasingly having to adopt practices that seem to be more about covering their back in the face of litigation claims than about acting on their professional instincts and doing what their patients or pupils require. So while there has been a lot of attention paid to the financial cost of litigation, which is considerable, particularly in relation to health, we were mainly concerned with the social cost of it, which is that then everybody ends up getting a service that isn't what you want because people are worried about covering their back.
What kind of litigation examples have you got from education? What sort of things?
Well, for example, the heightened concern about school trips is a really good one, where there's a kind of a worry that if something goes wrong on a school trip, somebody acting on behalf of a pupil or a parent might sue. And actually the cases in which that happens are reasonably rare, but you can kind of see, and any parent will be aware of this, you can see that the kind of consciousness of it is very high. So what then happens is that, you end up with stories about school trips, so-called, being organised in the school playground rather than at the beach where they were originally intended because it's safer, and paperwork going out of control, and really it making it very difficult and unpleasant experience for teachers, I think, who are very burdened then with this kind of fear that what if.
It's kind of an American thing, I get the impression. So I remember sort of about 15 years ago, people first seeing those adverts, those ambulance chaser adverts on no win, no fee. We won't charge you unless if you had an accident at work, then give us a call. Is that right? Is that kind of when it started over here?
Yes, I mean, I think like many cultural trends, it it has come over, if you like, from America. But I think there are some differences as well, which is where our looking at the health and education was kind of important, because if you look at, for example, the NHS, I think this is, it's very worrying that the NHS is a public service, the taxpayer pays for it. So therefore, when the NHS gets sued, actually we're all suing ourselves, in effect. And unlike a company that can go bankrupt if the cost of litigation is too high, there's lots of quite good novels written about this kind of thing. With public services, basically the taxpayers' pockets are as deep as the Chancellor wants them to be. You keep on paying, and so I think that's kind of one of the differences.
Very quickly, Jenny, because we're running out of time, I find this fascinating. Do you think that the government can actually do anything to shift the tide of compensation culture? Because if my nana dies in a hospital and she didn't need to die, I'm going to sue, aren't I?
Well, yes, and anyone has every sympathy with individuals in that situation. It's quite a difficult one, and there have been attempts by officials to look into these problems and to think of alternative ways of doing things. The only thing I would say is that I think as a society we have to get to grips with the idea that this is a cultural problem. It's not something that you can just fix with a change in legislation. You mentioned claims, the sort of ambulance chasers, claims management companies earlier. There's a lot of anger about solicitors as well, and greedy lawyers. And I think whilst these things are problematic, I think there's a tendency to get too hung up on that and not look at the kind of really actually quite difficult cultural issues about why it is that we have this kind of culture of feeling that we should sue to...
Jenny, listen, we have to move on. Thank you very much. Jenny Bristow, one of the authors of The Social Cost of Litigation. Sorry, I could have spoken for the rest of the show today. I thought it was absolutely fascinating. But we have to move on. Time waits for no man. Now, this is a great story, isn't it? New car park charging technology has been rolled out across the 3 counties. How frustrating is it when you're in a car park and you haven't got change? You want to stay for an hour and the hour is 80 pence, you've only got £1. I know you're only losing 20 pence, but that annoys me. Well, there's no need for money or mobile phones. You drive in, a photo of your car is taken, and the charges are then debited automatically from your account. Convenient, or is it another way to monitor our movements? Well, our reporter Victoria Cook went to Welwyn Garden City to try out the new Swish Park technology.
OK, I'm here at the Osborne Way car park. This is the car park for the station. It says here, Hunters Bridge car park. This car park is managed using automatic number plate recognition cameras. OK, let's go in. Well, it says this car park has no barriers and requires no ticket. Just remember vehicle registration and pay at the pay machine before returning to car. Right, it's time for me to pay now, so it's coming up to 10 to 3. I will try and find the picture of my car. Start. It says enter the last 3 characters of your car number plate. So, that is HHZ. OK. And there is a picture of the BBC car entering the car park. So I shall press the picture of the car. £1.50. Confirm. And I will be paying with my bank card. Confirm. And that's it complete.
That's okay. That's the one. £3.50.
So how do you find this system?
As long as we can remember our registration, it's all right.
It's okay, actually. It's just better than getting the ticket and then losing it or sticking it in. Yeah, I like it.
How do you feel about the car park having a picture of your car and sort of having that information about you on their systems?
Yeah, I've got no issue with that, really.
Well, what do you think? Are traffic cameras a convenience or an intrusion in our lives? I didn't realise you still had to use your card there to pay, so it's not quite that swish. Joining us now is Nick Pickle from Big Brother Watch. Morning, Nick.
Good morning.
You've probably got a problem with this, haven't you?
Well, I think that the big thing is about making sure people know what's going on, and one of the systems about this is when you register as a customer, it's a bit like an Oyster card.
Right.
It tracks all your movements, it lists all your parking journeys, and who knows how long that data's kept for. Is it being sold to advertisers? No one really knows, and the company's response has been, well, we have no plans to do anything like that, but who knows what they might do in the future.
But it makes our lives easier, doesn't it, Nick? That's all we want, is to make our lives easier.
Well, and that's fine, but I think the main thing is that people need to have all the information up front so they can make a choice. And the problem is if you're selling something on convenience but not telling people about the full impact of what you're doing, then it's not really a choice.
We have a statement from the company behind the technology, Parkion. All data provided by subscribers is covered by the Data Protection Act. The supplier does not sell any information to third parties or have any intention of doing so. There we go, that's that sorted.
Well, the key thing is often that people don't sell data. What they do is they charge people to access it. There's a very big difference there. So Google doesn't sell your data, but it makes an awful lot of money from advertisements based on the fact of the data it collects. So there's a bit of word jumping there. But no, the main thing is that people need to have all the information up front so they can make an informed choice. And if in a couple of years' time, or even a few months' time, it might be that someone wants to know, okay, so are there any drivers who are using lots of car parks because they might be driving a long way, so we can target them with some kind of insurance product? Would people then feel that they haven't been monitored when it lands on their doorstep? That's a different question.
But in the great scheme of things, getting a few phone calls, cold call phone calls, and a few letters through the post and a few emails is trying to sell you stuff. Does it really matter, Nick?
Well, there's 2 points. One is people do feel it matters, and I think the amount of marketing material we're receiving now is only going up. And I think people are getting to the point now where they're pretty sick of it. But then also, it highlights What happens when data is combined with other data? So, heaven forbid you get in a divorce case, or you might simply have a speeding ticket, or just a contractual dispute with somebody. And suddenly there's this huge range of data from your mobile phone, from your parking machines, from everything, that has been tracking your movements with incredible detail. And people might start to realise, well, hang on a minute, I thought I was going about my business as an innocent person. Why is it then that I was tracked every step of the way?
Nick Pickles from Big Brother Watch, thank you very much. Always good to have someone on from that. I have just been informed that you can register at these car parks. So whereas Victoria used her debit card in the report, you can register, so you don't need to. So all your card details are stored already. I've got a statement from Parky on the company. I won't read the whole thing, but basically they're saying they do not sell information to third parties or have any intention of doing so.
On FM, AM and online. BBC Three Counties Radio.
Busy. Lots in the next half an hour, including a report on elderly care. Anna Lark, who you've probably seen in the newspapers, Justin Lee Collins' ex-girlfriend, will be in as well. And also, I went to the pictures yesterday. I saw Looper, the time travel movie. Very disappointing. It's filled with too many paradoxes and it's flawed. But despite that, I bought some nachos and a bag of Revels. It was like £8. It was £8. Cinema food is very expensive. By strange coincidence, the government have now, or members of Parliament have got involved, saying they want to reduce the price of food in cinemas, which I think is a good thing. But then part of me thinks, why on earth are the government getting involved? We'll be speaking about that a little bit later on. I've been asking all morning for your texts and your emails on what you've won. A young lad won the Great British Bake Off yesterday. His mum said he's never won anything before. So what have you won? 08459 455 555. On the email, Marina says, the only things I've won is a lovely doll in a raffle when my little girl was 5, and the odd certificate or cash prize for cake and jam. In the local town show. Now, that sounds good. And then she says that the cash prize was 15 shillings. So that was over 40 years ago you won that. Sue says, really? I won 10 grand on a lottery scratch card? You joke. Sue! Sue, I need a new pair of shoes. On the text 81333, starting your text 3CR. David in Marsh Farm. 2 weeks ago, I went to a choir concert in St Albans in aid of the hospice. I spent £5 on raffle and won, to my surprise, a very rare bottle and cask strength 55.8% proof whiskey. Not tried it yet. Wow. And, excuse me, John from Marsh Farm. Marsh Farm is the place to be if you want to win stuff, apparently. I once won an archery contest, winning a £10 Woolworths voucher. However, my victory lasted 5 minutes, shooting over 150 feet. The judge disqualified my last arrow as my foot was partially over the line. The contest was awarded to the son of the judge. It changed my life. Trust no one.
Across beds, hearts and bucks, this is BBC Three Counties Radio.
All this week on the show, we're talking about the crisis facing elderly care. With people living longer and less money available, councils are being forced to cut back spending on care homes and consider other ways of looking after the growing elderly population. But what if you have an elderly relative who needs help? Charities like Age Concern can offer support and advice. Our reporter Tony Fisher spoke to Jill Cuthbert, who is a wellbeing officer for the organisation in Luton.
A lot of people struggle and ring into Age Concern saying, I don't know what to do, and so we do a lot of telephone advice in those kind of situations for people who really have never faced that situation before. And it's very hard looking after a parent because you've got a role reversal. They've always looked after you, and now you're starting to look after them, and it becomes quite tricky.
It must be a lot of form filling and that sort of thing, and going through council bureaucracy.
Yes,
that must take quite a lot of time.
Yes, we have support
means
workers.
Testing, all of that.
Yeah, a lot of people need help with forms for things like attendance allowance when they start to need more help, carers benefits and that kind of thing. Yeah, we do a lot of form filling for people, helping people fill the forms in. Some people we give volunteers that will go and visit, that will help the relatives. Because what happens these days, modern families, everybody works, and we get phone calls in saying, "Well, I work all day, but my parent has got no company during the day." So we can send a volunteer in that situation, someone to regularly visit, and so or we can possibly get them to go to one of our lunch clubs, or we can phone them for a chat. So we do various other things to sort of help in that kind of situation. But I can see how difficult it is for a lot of families.
I imagine in quite a few instances things just sort of fall through the net.
They do, and a lot of it is through just lack of knowledge, or people come across this sort of situation for the first time and they just don't know what to do. It can take one of our support workers a couple of hours to fill in, and they know how to fill the forms in, so you can imagine how long it would take someone who doesn't really know how to fill these forms in. It's very daunting for people.
And when people get help, they have to get means tested, I suppose. So if you have the means, then you end up paying for it somehow, whether it comes out of your pension or whatever. Yes. But if you really are hard up or on benefits, then presumably the state helps out, does it?
It does, but these days with the cutbacks really beginning to bite, then the people that will get state funded are fewer and fewer, and so it does become more of a problem. And the very minimum that it costs to be in a care home is about around the £490 a week, that sort of figure. That's the very lowest that you would pay, right up to a couple of thousand a week, depending on what type of care it is. It's a huge amount of money, and people are having to sell their homes to fund it. And it's a big worry for people.
Well, there we go. We've been asking this morning, what have you won? Paul Faulkner on the Twitter, at Iain Lee, or at BBC 3CR, they both work. I left a pub lotto syndicate. 2 weeks later, they won 150 grand. You sucker, I said sucker. I was quite gutted, to say the least. I bet you were. How many were in the syndicate, Paul? How much would you have won if you'd have stayed in that syndicate? The lottery is a tax on thick people, though, isn't it? Basically, it's an idiot's tax. And you hear these stories of people winning, but no one really does. Now, here's something. BBC Look East, that's the telly, would like to hear from you if you've been a recent victim of crime. How were you treated by the police? They're looking to speak to you about your story in the run-up to the Police and Crime Commissioner elections. If you've been a victim and are happy to be contacted by the BBC, please let us know here at Three Counties on 08459 455 555. Or text us your name and number and let us know that you're happy to be contacted. 81333, start your text 3CR, or you can email by going through the Three Counties website, bbc.co.uk/Three Counties. And while we're doing a little plug, I should probably mention that there are other ways of contacting us, apart from the phone numbers and the texts. And I thoroughly recommend that you go on the Facebook. We're all on Facebook, aren't we? Is there anyone listening not on Facebook? Come on, even my mum's on Facebook. She doesn't know how to use a computer. She's on Facebook. And find BBC Three Counties Radio. And we quite often post up some of the stuff that we're talking about before the show on there, so you have a little heads up. We post up pictures and extra stuff and audio and videos and loads of other stuff that we can't fit into the show. So well worth going to have a look. And also Twitter, which I'm finding Twitter more and more irritating as I do find it. Twitter is annoying. And if I didn't have 33,000 followers, I'd close it. But sometimes it's quite handy to say, I'm doing this, come and have a listen. I'm doing this, go and send me some money. But on Twitter, you can either follow me, at Iain Lee, IAINLEE, or you can follow at BBC 3CR, which is the Twitter feed of the station. Or you can follow both. Hey, listen, there's no rules. I'm not going to be a Twitter fascist. You can do what you want. I do block, though, if I get abuse. If anyone sends me anything that I vaguely consider to be abuse, I block without prejudice. You're gone. Now, when you last went to the cinema, you might have been put off buying the treats. It says on here for your kids, but it's for you, really, isn't it? Because they're too expensive. I once, in a cinema, spent £15 on one bag of pick and mix. I do like a pick and mix. You've got to get the levels right. And it was so much in there that the young lady working in there said, "Oh, my God, I've never seen such a big bag of pick and mix." I had the record for pick and mix. Well, MPs are calling for a cut in the price of sweets, drinks, ice cream and all of that stuff at the movies. The Respect MP, George Galloway, and the former Conservative Minister, Sir Peter Bottomley, says they deplore the profiteering by cinema chains, which they accuse of exploiting their customers. They've signed a Commons motion urging them to reduce the prices in line with those in shops and restaurants. Richard Fitzwilliams is a film critic and social commentator. Good morning, Richard.
Good morning.
How much do you think you've spent on sweets during your time as a film critic, or do you just get them free?
Well, I mean, here you have it. You go to your rather comfortable critic screening, and then occasionally, not all the time, unless these days they lay on entertainment of some sort, you can have a free Coca-Cola or occasionally sandwiches, but as I say, that sort of hospitality is less than it was.
Isn't it just?
But if you go into your cinema and you look at the prices, in fact, I must tell you, I never suffer because I bring in my own Coca-Cola.
Richard, you're not allowed to. Some cinemas, they'll chuck you out for doing that.
Well, I should perhaps...
Go on.
Am
Tell us
I
your
allowed to give
secrets.
a hint on air?
Well, we don't condone it, but yes, let's hear your story, Richard. Go on.
Put a can of Coca-Cola in your pocket. You can pick it up for 60 or 70 or 80p, and don't pay prices so appalling that, I mean, the whole thing is a total rip-off.
They are very, very expensive, aren't they?
Well, yes, and if you consider the fact that cinema prices themselves go up, and also consider that if you happen to be going to a 3D, there are extra problems. You really are going to be paying a lot of money, and if there's someone, if you're together, say, or perhaps you're paying for someone else and they want
a romantic evening, yes.
Well, yes, I was going to use the word popcorn, but there you have a real problem. And of course, if you have one of the medium or the giant-sized Coca-Colas, the whole thing is a total rip-off, and it should be looked at.
But do you think, Richard, I agree, it should be looked at, but should it be looked at by the government? Should MPs really be getting involved in what is basically private businesses?
Yes, this, of course, is what may in fact mean that what is well meant doesn't actually come to anything. I mean, they may not actually be able to change it, but I do think that if people, and there's no doubt about it, they're behaving in a way that is absolutely outrageous. If you put prices to a level that's outrageous, even if you can do so legally, the least Parliament can do is to make noises. Yep. And if people realize that they're being watched, that something is absolutely appalling, that it's pretty immoral and exploitative. You've got your captive audience quite literally in the cinema, and you expect them to buy drinks that are in the foyer.
I had
much better.
Yesterday, I had nachos and a bag of Revels, £8. £8.
Appalling. It's quite literally, it's obscene. Make a fuss. Even if it doesn't actually bring prices down, it may mean they go up at a slower rate.
Richard, very quickly, what was the last film you saw?
Well, the last film I saw was Skyfall, and I have to tell you, it's worth it. No plot details and no spoilers from me. Bond is back, and this is a remarkable film because at last, after 50 years, the series really is growing up. We saw this with Casino Royale, of course, and then Quantum dived to the nadir, I thought, of Bond experiences. I thought it was terrible. Yeah. But this is totally new and under Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson. And do see, by the way, Everything or Nothing, which is the documentary of the last 50 years of Bond without Sean Connery, I'm afraid. But
Sean Connery's all bitter about it, isn't he? He claims he's owed millions.
No, he's extremely bitter. And
get over it, Connery.
Well, this is part, perhaps, of the fun and games of it. There have been lots of problems along the way, but my goodness, it's cinema's most lucrative franchise in real terms. Harry Potter still leads, but Harry Potter has its limits. Bond has no limits, and go and see an absolutely cracking good, well, it's a form of thriller, really.
I'm there, Richard Fitzwilliams. Fantastic, look at that. Got him on for an interview. Got a sneaky little free film review as well. Right, there we go. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number if you want to give us a call, or you can text 81333, starting your text 3CR. Now, last week, the television presenter Justin Lee Collins was found guilty of harassing his former partner, Anna Lark. A jury at St Albans Crown Court agreed that he'd subjected her to sustained emotional and domestic abuse during their 7-month relationship. He was given 140 hours of community service. Anna Lark lives in Welwyn City. She joins me now. Morning.
Hiya.
Why did you feel the need to go to court with this?
Right, well, it was my dad that initiated this. I'd left him on July the 4th, and I'd gone back home to live with my parents. I spent about 2.5 months crying on my bed and just being an absolute state. And but my parents knew what had happened to me, and my brother had. And my dad intervened, and he just went to the police and said, look, we really need Anna to speak to you. So my brother and him invented some kind of like little thing whereby they said they knew someone at the police and they'd like to speak to me. So that's really how it came about. And I decided to go to court. I felt like going to the papers is just that's a really bad way of going about it. I wanted to see it through court. I wanted to get a proper conviction. I didn't think...
But you have gone to the papers now, haven't you?
I have, yeah, because what I'm doing now is I'm going to be making people aware of domestic violence. It's the, an emotional abuse, the kind of abuse that stays with you, like, well after, like, bruises and things like that fade.
Yeah.
Because I know it sounds a bit twee, but I've got the scars, but they're just on the inside and they're still there. And, emotional abuse and verbal abuse, it's horrible. It's so horrible. It completely brainwashes you, changes you completely.
Why did you stay in the relationship so long?
I loved him. I really loved him. Despite all that. I know. It's... A lot of people do ask me that, why did you stay? I always thought I was going to be one of these people that if anyone ever shouted at me or called me, I mean, I can't swear, obviously, this time in the morning, but if anyone spoke to me really badly, I always thought to myself, I'll just tell him to get lost and then go. But I really loved him. I realised he had a problem and I really, really wanted to help him. I really, really wanted to help him. And I said, I'll do anything, I'll help you. But he denied having a problem. And, there's no helping someone who doesn't think they have a problem at all.
Do you still love him?
Do you know what? I've been asked that quite a few times. Since conviction, I've been doing so many interviews and things. I'm absolutely exhausted. I haven't had time to rest my brain. And I've been saying, I think so, yeah. But really thinking about it, no, I don't think so. I really don't. I think it's just because I'm dredging up all this stuff again from the past. I think I'm just getting a little bit emotional and confused. I don't think so.
If I ask anything that's inappropriate, tell me to get lost.
Okay.
How much did you get paid for the interview that was in the papers at the weekend?
Get lost.
Really? Mm-hmm. Are you keeping the money, or is that going, or what's happening?
I have done so many interviews and pretty much everything has gone to Refuge.
Right.
I actually went to Refuge yesterday to speak with them about probably doing some kind of campaign against domestic violence and making people aware of the signs and getting people to try and report it. I actually had an email from some woman this morning who she asked me for help because she didn't know what to do because she's in an abusive relationship and she wants to prosecute but she doesn't know how to do it. So, I'm starting to get emails now of people... Well, we've had lots of emails about people saying because of this case, they've left their abusive partners, which is absolutely brilliant. I mean, even if I can help one person, that's just one person.
How do you reply to an email like that? What do you say? What is your advice to someone who's in a relationship like that?
Well, the thing is, my advice is, if you are in a relationship like that, emotional abuse, it's only going to get worse. It is only going to get worse. It doesn't get better. It does... initially, get the honeymoon period where everything's really, really lovely as they're sort of pulling you in, drawing you in. And then ever so gradually, like what Justin did, which was he told me he demanded I remove my Facebook, my Twitter, my Xbox Live, my LinkedIn, remove all the contacts from that, my MSN, all those things.
You did it? You did it willingly?
Well, I mean, it was a case of if I didn't do it, then... you either face his wrath or go. So I had to. It was he said it was one rule for him and one rule for me. So I did it. And he asked me to change my phone number, and I did that as well. He also deleted all the contacts from my phone. So he started to isolate me. It's just... And then, obviously, there was the verbal abuse, and obviously... unrepeatable things.
I feel I should declare an interest because I have met you before because we have worked a couple of times at various video game award ceremonies and stuff like that. So I know you through that. I have worked with Justin in the past and I sort of know him to say hello to. And when I met you, I can't remember, 3 or 4 times, you were very bubbly and very outgoing. And then when I read what was happening or what had been happening to you, I was so surprised because you are such a strong person.
It's weird. it's weird. They can grind you down, and they can completely. It's almost like brainwashing. They can change your personality. You don't. They separate you from your family, from your friends. They tell you, you're fat, you're ugly, you're lucky to have them. He was sleep depriving me, so I couldn't really think properly. I had to sleep facing him. I couldn't turn my back to him. He would tell me what to wear. So he'd say, meet me down the road at the coffee shop. I'd walk down. He'd look at me and go, I really don't like what you're wearing. Turn around and go back, go change. Yeah. He didn't like my hair, didn't like it tied back. He said it looked... actually, I probably can't say the word.
Okay.
So he controlled my makeup, the way I talked. I couldn't say certain words, which some I can't repeat actually on this as well. But one of them was gruel, which is the word I use for soup. Don't ask me why. I don't know.
How do you think... one of the things that surprised me as the case was going on was how you were presented in some of the papers. I remember, we're talking about an abuse case.
Yeah.
And the Mail, I think it was the Mail, had a front page picture of you where it was kind of showing quite a lot of cleavage. I thought that's quite an inappropriate picture to be showing when it's such a serious issue like this. Did you pay any attention to the press as it was going on?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I did. And I think a couple a fair few publications portrayed me as they tried to in the defence in court, portray me as an alcoholic nutcase, because that's all that's all that his defence had on me.
You are a recovering alcoholic, is that true?
Yes, I am.
Right.
Yes, I am.
You go to meetings and...
I haven't been to meetings for actually a little while, which is a bit naughty. I know, it's very, very naughty. But yes, I am. And I'm doing really, really well. But yeah.
What's it done to your reputation, all of this coming out? A lot of stuff that I'd imagine you'd like to keep private.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a pucker pad. What he did was he basically got me to write down in a pucker pad. Well, actually, not me write down. He wanted me to dictate everybody I'd ever been with or been intimate with.
Is that the actual pad?
That's the actual pad.
Wow.
Do you want to... Oh,
no, I don't know.
It's horrific. It's horrific. So he forced me to do that, and I didn't want to do it. But he said to me, if I don't do it, he's going to dump me. He said that he didn't want, because he was so famous, he didn't want a story to come out about me in the papers that he didn't know about. He said it would give clarity to our relationship and help our relationship. And it didn't. And I knew it wouldn't, because he used to keep it in the wardrobe and then go Columbo on me, where he would go quiet and then go, actually, and there's something that doesn't seem right. Tell me about this incident. And I'd have to repeat it again in graphic detail. We're talking
yeah, okay,
yeah, graphic. And if something wasn't right, he would run to the bedroom and go and get the pucker pad and then start reading out and say, no, actually, look, you say here you did this and this. I mean, who remembers what they did when they were younger? There's a lot of people in here, but it's people who have been intimate. And
there are some people listening who would be interested that you're being represented by one of the biggest PR companies in the country. Why is that? Why are you doing that?
We chose Max Clifford because basically after the court case, we were absolutely overwhelmed by the media response. I had absolutely no idea quite, how it was going to be, and the interest has been unbelievable, and there is absolutely no way I could handle, that kind of media and the emails. And
don't you just want to disappear now, though, and go and hide your head under the pillow and just let?
No,
you're going to.
No, I don't. No, I don't. What I want to do is, from this really bad experience, I want to do good now. I really want to campaign for domestic violence and also, get emotional, mental, and verbal, that kind of abuse. It's not just physical. I want people to be women. I want people to know about it, and I want women to be able to think that they can, they can speak out. I mean, there's places they can go, like Refuge. There are, there are places, there are services available for women and men. And men as well. It's not just women.
You're right, that's important, I think, to mention that.
Yeah, it's not just women, it's the men as well. I mean, I found out that since this case has happened, that quite a lot of women have left their abusive relationships. And there is also one man as well whose partner, his girlfriend, was absolutely abusing him to pieces. And he, because of this case, thought, oh my God, I'm not dealing with this, I'm going, and he left. So it's men, women, it's everybody that's involved in a...
Once you've stopped all the interviews, and I know you're very busy, you're in lots of papers and on the radio and stuff like that, what do you do next?
Well, that's the thing. We actually haven't. That's me and my brother. My brother sort of like manages me and
my bruv.
My bruv. Yeah, he deals with all the incoming emails and everything, because if I had to deal with that as well, I think my head would explode. But like I say, we went to Refuge yesterday, and we want to do something with them to help people in abusive relationships. I want to speak out. I want to go around and talk to people that have been abused, and maybe also talk to people that are abusers about it, and just go around. I just want to raise awareness. And I think it's going to be. If I hide away and go back maybe to Games PR or anything, then I've had this happen to me, and I've got good chance to really, really help people. And I know people think, oh, she's like doing all these interviews and taking the money. I'm not taking the money. I've taken a couple of fees because I need to eat. At the moment, I don't have enough money to put in my gas meter. However, I need to eat and things. But the rest of the fees and the donations and I'm doing these interviews. They're all going to Refuge.
We should make it clear that you're not getting any money for coming in today. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you ever so much.
Anna Locke. We're a little bit late, but sometimes I think it's worth pursuing something a little bit longer there, and I found that absolutely fascinating. Right, lots coming up in the last hour of the show. I'll tell you what after the latest news and sport with Catherine Boyle. High fives all around, because I've just remembered I was staying in a hotel last night. Breakfast is included in the deal. After this show, I'm getting a hotel buffet breakfast. Sweet as. Sweet. Last hour of the show, plenty coming up before Jonathan Vernon Smith at 9 o'clock, including the mother of Gary McKinnon has welcomed the decision not to extradite him to the US. She will be on this programme in the next half an hour. MPs call for a cut in the price of sweets and treats at the cinemas. And the mum of the Great British Bake Off winner says the competition was the first thing he'd ever won. We're asking this morning, what have you won? So let's celebrate how good you are. You can email 3cr@bbc.co.uk. You can text 81333, starting your text 3CR, or, this is the best way to do it, let's be honest, you can give me a call, 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Oh, yeah. And the work experience Ollie, in an attempt to get into my good books, has just brought me a cup of coffee. It's not worked, Ollie. It's not worked. Now, the Hertfordshire mother of British computer hacker Gary McKinnon has welcomed Home Secretary Theresa May's decision to block his extradition to the US. Janice Sharp said she was overwhelmed after an emotional rollercoaster, and she said Mrs May had been incredibly brave to stand up to the US. The 46-year-old, who has Asperger's syndrome, admitted accessing Pentagon computers from his bedroom in North London. But he says he was only looking for information on UFOs. Well, David Birmingham was one of the NatWest 3. Remember them? The British bankers who ended up in a US jail after losing a high-profile fight against extradition. Morning, David.
Good morning.
For those who don't remember, could you just fill us in briefly on the background of the story again?
Yeah, it was a long time ago. We were accused, there were three of us who lived and worked in London, were accused by the United States government of defrauding our bank in London, NatWest, of $7 million in a deal involving the chief financial officer of a company called Enron, which some people may remember went spectacularly bust in 2001.
You say that with a little bit of glee in your voice, David.
Oh God, no, there was no glee involved, I can assure you of that. No.
And you were extradited?
Yes, we were.
How long did that process take, and what were you feeling as it was going on?
Well, the thing was, we were the first people to be extradited under this new Extradition Act, as it then was, in 2003. Our extradition took place in 2006, and it became immediately apparent to us that the law was fundamentally flawed, which is essentially partially what Theresa May tried to fix yesterday, because the United States could request the extradition of anybody without evidence, and also because a judge in this country couldn't say, hang on a minute, this case belongs here, which was clearly the case with ours. We wanted to be tried in this country, but the law did not provide for it, and that's what Mrs May yesterday decided to fix at the same time as denying Gary's extradition.
Do you think that she's done enough in the changes that she's made?
Well, she's done a lot. Let's put it that way. The introduction of a forum bar allowing a judge to say, no, I think this case really does belong in the UK is an enormously important change. I think there are still those, and I'm one of them, who believe that for any country, it's not just the US, for any country to be able to request the extradition of a UK citizen without having to produce a prima facie case, some evidence, I think it's just wrong in principle. I don't think any country should do it.
How do you feel about Gary not being extradited? Do you feel, and bitter is probably too strong a word, but do you feel kind of regret or resentment at all?
No, not in the slightest. Oh, no, absolutely not. I mean, I was determined to make some good come out of the bad that happened to us, and I've campaigned for many years to change this law, and I've been in almost daily contact with Janice Sharp, Gary's mother, helping them in any way, any small way that I can, and a number of other people besides. So I was overjoyed yesterday, absolutely overjoyed.
You mentioned Janice Sharp, the mum, who we're going to have on the show in a little bit, and we've spoken to her yesterday and several times here on this station. And it does make you wonder how the families of those who are being extradited and facing, potentially lengthy sentences, how they feel. How did your family cope with what was going on?
Well, it's enormously difficult. We've got an awful lot of very close, very good, supportive friends, and I knew that the moment I was stuck on a plane to go to America, not knowing when I'd ever be back, that my family would be looked after. But it is an enormously stressful time. It's very, very difficult for them because they're a long way away. They really don't know what's happening. They don't know if you're ever coming back. It's a terrible thing. In many senses, it's a bit like the wives of soldiers who go away on service, except that they know that in 6 months' time, God willing, their husband's coming home. So they have a short period of extreme anxiety. But the point about extradition is that you may never know when somebody's coming home. It could be, years and years and years before that person comes home. And I think, in a sense, that's why it was so important that Mrs. May did what she did yesterday and said, more cases ought to be dealt with in this country, and that's why we're changing the law. Because at least if you're facing justice here, you can prepare for that alongside and, in the arms of your family and your friends.
What length of sentence were you facing?
35 years.
That must have been terrifying.
Yes, well, it's something you come to terms with. In much the same way as Gary has lived under the threat for the last 10 years of a potential sentence of 60 years. 35 years was the statutory maximum. In practice, had we gone to trial and pled guilty, it would probably have been less than that. But the most important thing is that in America, there is no parole in the federal system. So 35 years means 35 years. Wow. And the prosecutors won't let you come home.
David, thank you very much. David Birmingham, one of the NatWest 3, the British bankers who ended up in a US jail after losing a high-profile fight against extradition. Just imagine that, the thought of being sent to a foreign country and you might be there for 35 years in jail. It's just incredible. Imagine how your mum would feel, your wife, your kids. Incredible. David, fantastic. Thank you very much. Absolutely fascinating. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. Someone on Facebook, Philip, is talking about things he's won. Oh, Philip, you've not won anything since 1965? Oh, my God, nearly 50 years ago. I won the egg and spoon race in my infant school in 1965, my first and last great sporting achievement. Notable because all the eggs had been smashed, so potatoes were used instead. Hang on a second. You can't use potatoes. The kids these days, they don't do egg and spoon races with eggs. You get these brilliant toys, and I think this is a great invention. They're these plastic eggs that when you drop, they crack open and like a little beanbag with a yolk falls out, which I think is great. Bob in Bedford has emailed him. This is about the cost of food in cinemas. Instead of wasting our money and time in taxes looking into Coke and popcorn at cinemas, how about the government getting the prices of gas and electric down so people can stay warm in the winter months? Bob, yeah, I can't argue with that. It does seem a little bit more important, doesn't it? And perhaps the government and MP should be focusing maybe slightly more on that than the cost of a bag of minstrels or a Mars bar. Vera's in Milton Keynes. Good morning, Vera.
Good morning.
You're a winner, are you?
Yeah.
What have you won?
I go back yonks, really.
Oh, blimey. Go on, let's hear it. What have you won?
It's the Silver Poet Award.
The Silver
Poet Award, yes.
Does silver mean second place?
It does, yes.
I don't know if I can technically classify that as a win.
Oh, you don't.
Well,
All right, then, leave it at that. I won second place. It wasn't a monetary award,
Okay,
and
no.
I haven't got a silver cup, but I have got the award the
Vera,
certificate is hanging on the wall.
Vera, I have taken a steward inquiry. We can include second place as a sort of win. So you got to
sort of win. I consider that to won second place, and you can win third place.
I won second place in the Sony
There you are.
Awards.
You were the winner.
But I came second. I didn't win.
You didn't lose then.
You're good, Vera.
I am good. I am good.
A little bit bonkers, but good.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Yes. So you won a certificate for your poetry,
Yes,
did you?
yes. Victor Price was awarded, presented it, but I wasn't there because it's in America, you see.
Hang on a second. Suddenly this story got global.
Yeah.
So it wasn't
I
just
was in America for a few weeks with my daughter.
Calm down, Vera. Calm down. Let's calm down.
I was in America. How's that?
That's much better.
Oh, now, brown cow. Now,
Yes.
shall we go back again?
Yes, go on. You
go back to
I'll drink my coffee.
California.
I'll drink my coffee. You carry on chattering away to yourself. Go on.
Will you have one ear on me then?
I'm listening.
All right then. Where were we?
You were in
Back
America.
California.
Yes.
Yeah, I was there for a few weeks with my daughter.
Yes.
And I think she must have decided to send my S poem. It's now called the Symphony of S's.
Right.
I sent it to your department, but nobody read it out. I think it was too difficult because every word begins with an S.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, I know.
Yes.
Yeah, you're splashing all over the place. It really is difficult to read.
Yes.
But it did win second prize. But it didn't get anywhere in the Guinness Book. There isn't a category for it. That's sad, isn't it?
Well, there's not a category for bonkers women winning second place in American poetry competitions. No, of course not.
Wait a minute, they called it an ingenious composition. Now that's good enough.
Vera, you're fantastic. I'm awarding Vera a golden pass, and that means any time Vera calls up, she just comes straight on the air. She just jumps the queue, she comes straight on the air. Vera, fantastic. Thank you. It's a golden pass, not a silver one. Because second doesn't count as a win. But thank you, Vera. It's been a good sport. Jonathan Vernon-Smith is in the studio with me, looking very, very smart. I do like that shirt.
Do you? Yes, a lot of people like this shirt.
Pink, it's kind of a very light pink, blue buttons.
Yes, I know. It's got a snazzy cuff as well.
I love a snazzy cuff.
I love a snazzy
You must have been
cuff.
gutted that the football was cancelled last night.
I was very upset.
Disappointed.
I've been hearing all about this football business last night.
I know, I don't like football either.
No.
But I kind of wish I'd watched it, because I turned on my phone after having a little doze, and Twitter was awash with the farce.
What's wrong with all these stupid people? Honestly. What is wrong with them, though? For goodness sake, racial abuse on the pitch.
I'm not talking about the racial abuse. Wouldn't be making light of that. That is wrong. I was talking about the other football match that was rained off.
Oh, right. Oh, don't care about that.
It's as if I was coming with a light. Let's have a jolly chat before we find out what's on your show about racial abuse.
Apparently, there was all this terrible racial
horrible,
abuse last
horrible.
night. Absolutely disgusting.
Boot the Ukraine out of football.
What's wrong with them?
No, we don't want that.
Sake.
Let them and Spain go off and have their own little racist tournament somewhere, and we won't indulge.
Are they racially abusive in Spain as well?
There's a lot of it in Spain, yes.
Really?
Yeah. But people it's 2012.
Not in Frigaliana.
No, not at all. People in 2012 actually doing monkey chants. In 2012,
I know.
Anyway, it's incredible. But I'm now embarrassed that you would think I would come in with a light-hearted bit of banter about racism.
Thank goodness we live here. That's all I can say.
And not in some horrible foreign country.
Some exactly where they're racist.
We don't want that. Not racist here in Britain, not in Luton, anyway.
Well, no.
What's on your show this morning, sir?
Coming up on the big phone in this morning, very interested in your conversation you had just a few moments ago with Anna Lark.
Of course, the ex-partner of Justin Lee Collins, yes.
Yes, indeed. And her talking about the fact that she experienced all this abuse in the relationship, and I was very interested in your line of questioning about why she's now coming out and sharing her message and trying to get that message home. At 9 o'clock this morning, I don't know if you've heard it yet. Have you heard the recording of Justin Lee Collins?
I saw it was online, and I didn't play it. Are you going to play it out?
I'm going to play it.
It's got swears in. Have someone listened to it before?
We're going to take away the swearing.
Okay. You're actually going to play it? Okay.
Yeah, at 9 o'clock we're going to play. If you're wondering, if you listened to Anna Lark a little earlier and you've been hearing bits and pieces of this story with Justin Lee Collins, at 9 o'clock we're going to play you just a recording of the way he spoke to her.
Okay, that'll be interesting.
And at 9... on the big phone in today, have you experienced verbal abuse in a relationship? We often talk about men who punch their girlfriends and physically assault their girlfriends. What about verbal abuse? Not necessarily people who then take that verbal abuse to a physical level, but people who are just verbally abusive, verbally nasty, verbally controlling to their partner. What is that like to experience in a relationship? And do you think, to some extent, most relationships at some point will have a level of verbal abuse, and you shouldn't necessarily be too concerned about it? It's something you have to work through. Or, the minute verbal abuse starts, is that the beginning of the end?
We all say things in arguments and call people names.
Well, do you know what? I'm talking about my team upstairs, and they're saying, oh, no, my partner's never raised their voice to me. If they raise their voice to me, I think we'd lose trust. That would be the end of the relationship. I'm thinking, hello?
Come on.
I would imagine most couples have at some point had a flaming row at one another, and you say all kinds of things.
You say things you don't mean, of course you do. I think if it's sustained, if it's a continuous, it goes on and on and on, that's, I think, is where the problem is.
Indeed. But can verbal abuse in a relationship, can it be as bad as physical abuse? We'll discuss all of this on the big phone in this morning at 9. Have you experienced verbal abuse in a relationship? If so, get your call in now, 08459 455 555, and we'll discuss it on the big phone in at 9.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. I shall be listening to that.
Across beds, hearts and bucks, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
What a busy show it is this morning, and I shall definitely be listening to Jonathan Vernon-Smith at 9 o'clock when he plays out that clip of Justin Lee Collins. Should be fascinating. Now, back to this. The Hertfordshire mother of British computer hacker Gary McKinnon has welcomed Home Secretary Theresa May's decision to block his extradition to the US. Janice Sharp said she was overwhelmed after an emotional rollercoaster, and she said Mrs May had been incredibly brave to stand up to the US. Well, Janice Sharp joins me now from her home in Brookmans Park. Good morning, Janice.
Morning.
What was your reaction when you heard the news?
Oh, totally amazing. It was incredible. I can't describe how the relief was incredible, and it was better than anything that could ever happen for us personally.
Lots of pictures of you in the newspapers looking jubilant. What does Gary think?
Oh, the same thing. He's been crying, and we've been hugging, and he's been crying, and I mean, every day he wakes up and he's got this massive pain in his chest, and he's terrified. For the first time, he was able to sleep without that terror. He was scared to believe it was real. It was amazing.
What happens to Gary now, Janice? Do we know?
No, the CPS can decide whether to prosecute or not, but that's not a problem. We'll deal with that. If he has to be prosecuted here, that's what we've fought for so many years. The main thing is the relief that he's staying here. That's what counts.
And if he goes to prison in the UK, you'll accept that?
Of course, but at least he's not going to be thousands of miles away from us. At least he's going to be his own peers, and we're going to be able to see him regularly, support him. It's really important for that to happen.
How hard? You said it was a brave decision for Theresa May to stand up to the US. How hard do you think it was for her to make that decision?
Incredibly hard. I mean, we've had six Home Secretaries during Gary's case. I can't explain just how hard it was for her. No one does it. But I suppose that's the difference. Basically, it's the same advisors who have been in government advising the past government to extradite. And you can take advice from your advisors, but in the end, a minister must make the decisions. And that's the difference, I think, between a leader and someone who's not a leader.
Because previous Home Secretaries have said, we can't stop the extradition simply on health grounds.
Because they listened to one advisor who wanted Gary extradited because he felt it would set a precedent. But there are other advisors, there are other lawyers, and also you can't send somebody who is in a terrible state or somebody who is emotionally sort of challenged. Gary has been to a neurologist when he was 16. He was losing his mental faculties. His grandmother had lifelong schizophrenia. His great-grandmother was in a mental institution for 50 years and died there. There is so much in Gary's past. It's not merely Asperger's like many people like to portray. It's very extensive medical evidence that she had access to and that she could judge on, and she judged wisely. I mean, Professor Baron Cohen said that Gary is very intelligent, which you have to be for Asperger's, but he is the emotional age of a child. I mean, also, in America, if you commit a crime in America, an American, on American soil, they cannot be extradited. So if someone here commits a crime on this soil, surely we should be tried here, but they're changing the treaty, which is fantastic.
There has been a little bit of a backlash, Janice, which I don't know if you're aware of, including the Dr. Iain Masavi, a sociology lecturer on Twitter, has said, call me sceptical, but I've got a feeling that if Gary McKinnon was a non-white Muslim, he'd be on the first plane to a US supermax jail. And other people have kind of said, well, isn't it interesting how this Asperger's was only diagnosed recently, and there is some suspicion around that. How do you feel about those claims, Janice?
Well, they're actually not listening to what I'm saying, because Gary was at a neurologist when he was 16 years old because he was losing his mental faculties. It's in the NHS records. We didn't know to go to a psychiatrist because the World Health Organization didn't even know about Asperger's till the mid-1990s, by which time Gary was 30. So if they look at the evidence, they will see that Gary's had these long-term problems. So they're actually choosing some people to actually say it's Asperger's alone without all the other things. But as I say, shouldn't we have equal rights to Americans? They're automatically tried in their own country if they commit a crime on their own soil. Why is it only British people that are dragged from theirs? No one else does it. America stands up for Americans, French stand up for French, Irish stand up for Irish, and thank God now Britain stands up for British.
What did you do last night to celebrate, Janice?
Well, I was actually doing interviews till really late.
Well, there you go.
I got home shattered, had a Chinese takeaway.
Listen, a Chinese takeaway sounds absolutely perfect right now. Janice Sharp, congratulations. Well done. The mother there of Gary McKinnon, who will not be extradited to the US. I know you've got lots of views on that. If you want to give me a call and share them, you're more than welcome to. Twitter is ablaze with our silver poet, Vera. I say ablaze, two people have kind of said. Simon Whitehead, it's people like silver poet Vera that make your show unmissable. And Adam Glynn says, oh man, there's an hilarious caller on right now. Listen, we will get the clip of the silver poet Vera, as she's now been called, and we'll put it out as an audio bill. I'll give you details in a bit on how to find that.
Across beds, hearts and bucks, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
And suddenly there's less than 30 minutes of the show left. It does, it flies by some... let's be honest, sometimes it drags. Not make any bones. It does. But today, it's flown by, which means it's a blooming good show. Yeah, if you want to hear the clip of Vera, who was our wonderful caller, who won second place in an American poetry competition. I still don't quite understand the full story. We'll put it out as an audio book. An audio book is like a tiny little clip of the show. And you can find that by following at BBC3CR on Twitter, or at Iain Lee, or if you go to the Facebook page. Look for BBC Three Counties on Facebook, and it'll pop up there at some point. In the next half an hour, shopkeepers say compensation shouldn't be cut for victims of crime, and a new banking scandal. Yeah, there's a new banking scandal. I'm going to tell you now. It's a text from Sarah from Hearts. I won a colouring competition that was being run by a certain high street bank when I was 5 years old. I was so excited and got invited to go and pick up my prize from the branch bank manager. The whole family pottered down there, and I received my prize, a money box and a T-shirt. Fantastic, you might think. How generous of the bank to give away a money box and a T-shirt, no doubt branded with their own name and all of their details to capture them young. But Sarah continues, and here is where the scandal lay. But when my sisters turned on the waterworks because they hadn't won, they got a prize too. How unfair. Banks, don't you love them? And then she's done a semicolon, a dash, and, oh, it looks like a smile. Isn't that good? And a winky eye. I'd never noticed that before. I thought it was just some random punctuation. Excellent. Thank you, Sarah. Banks, don't you just love them? Huh? Now, the union representing shop workers is calling on the government not to cut its compensation scheme for the victims of crime. USDOR says that its members are often subject to attacks, some of them violent. Today, along with other campaigners, it will tell MPs how important the criminal injuries compensation scheme is in helping people come through their ordeal and get back on their feet. Over 3 years ago, a Luton shopkeeper was murdered, but the family of Jashbhai Patel, who was otherwise known as Mr. Moon, have got the shop up and running again. Our reporter Tony Fisher has been speaking to Jashbhai's son, Amit, in the shop in Park Street and asked him about the compensation they received.
Without the money, we'd have sunk, basically. And as we can see, we're in the shop, it's thriving, people are coming in all the time. And so, as you're saying, without that money, the business would have collapsed.
Yeah. We wouldn't be able to survive, basically.
What difference did the compensation make to you and your family?
It gave us a base to start from again. That's what it did. It helped us build the business back up so that Mum had an income, because me and my sister are of age to earn ourselves. So basically, whatever we received as children was fine.
Incidental to what your mum received to help with the shop.
Yeah. Mum's was enough to pay for the refurb, basically.
And put in proper security and a proper shop.
Yeah. Fire alarm system connected to the police.
If that weren't to be the case in the future, what would you say?
Basically, Mum would have to live with me, and she'd have nothing, because Dad was the main breadwinner in the house.
So you're thankful for the compensation that you got, and if it was all taken away...
No, they shouldn't take it away. If anything, they should improve it, not take it away. But it does depend on each circumstance. Each circumstance is different. Nothing is the same. See, if we were rich, as it were, and my dad had passed, then the compensation wouldn't have made any difference. But because we didn't have anything, that compensation made all the difference.
Well, Tony Lloyd is a Labour MP who secured a debate in Westminster this afternoon on victims and the criminal justice system. Morning, Tony.
Good morning, Iain.
This debate is wider than just being about compensation for shop workers who've been attacked, isn't it?
Indeed. The victims through the whole of our criminal justice system don't get the treatment that they deserve. Victims ought to be centre stage, and as an MP over the years, I've come across lots of times when we get things like the police not taking people seriously. You saw that actually even recently in the scandalous case of the sexual exploitation of young girls in Rochdale, where they were victims, but they weren't treated seriously because they were dismissed as being unreliable or not worthwhile or whatever. But cases where I had a terrible case not so long ago of a woman whose former partner was in prison for seriously injuring her, but he was due for release, but the probation service wouldn't let her know when he was being released, even though he'd threatened to kill her from inside prison. So things like that.
Tony, why do you think? Because obviously it makes perfect common sense that the victim should be at the centre of everything. Why do you think that isn't the case so often?
I think we've got to change the whole culture. Some of it, though, has got to start at the top with government, because government's got to make it clear through things like the compensation scheme that you've just been talking about, that we're not going to cut back on victims. You know, there's a case of exactly a shop worker, a young woman in my city of Manchester. She was attacked at very early one morning when she was opening up the store. She had some injuries to her back and shoulder, but the main issue for her was that she felt scared to be out alone in the evening or the early morning. While she's back at work now, the problem she had is that she's lost a lot of confidence, and she received £1,250 compensation, which was important to help her get her life back on track. But she wouldn't get that under the changes being proposed, and I think there's a strong call on the government to think again. Let's have a bit of compassion in this whole process, rather than just seeing this as being a mechanical thing. I think most members of the public agree.
There will be some people, though, Tony, who'll say, well, hang on a second, why should I pay that woman £1,200?
Well, I mean, I'm sure there might be some people who do say that, but I think perhaps those people also might just want to reflect that if it's one of their family members, they might have a very different view of all that. Most of us, fortunately, don't suffer criminal injuries. But my shopkeeper example wasn't, you know, she was just going to work. Yeah. She wasn't kind of going out of her way to do something dangerous. She was opening up something that served the other members of the public, and, you know, had every reasonable entitlement. I think she could go to work unattacked, without fear. So I think most of us accept that criminal injuries and the compensation for it ought to be sort of a bit like a collective insurance policy, a bit like the NHS. You know, we can use it when we need it. Hopefully none of you listeners will ever need it, but hopefully when they do need it, it'll be there for them.
The government is obviously cutting costs everywhere they can. How much if these changes go through, how much money will they save? Do we know?
Yeah, if I said the amount of money, then like all things, because, you know, when you have a national scheme, it's big sums. But what the government are trying to do is cut out a few millions of pounds.
Go on, give us the figure. Go on.
Well,
I won't judge you, Tony.
No. The The average cost of the scheme over the years has been round about £190 million.
Right.
So even if the government cut out half of that, it's a little over £1.50 a year per head of population. I think most of us don't begrudge paying our £1.50.
It doesn't do the Conservative Party their image of being the nasty party. It doesn't do them much good in that respect, does it?
Well, look, I'm a Labour MP, so you wouldn't really expect me to jump up and down and say what a nice government this is. But in fairness, let me say this: that whilst the government are wrong on this, when this came before Parliament about 4 or 5 weeks ago, people from across the Labour MPs and Conservative MPs were up in arms about it and forced the minister to take it back at that stage. The fear is that they took it back, but they're going to sneak it back under the gatepost in that nobody's looking. And
Tony, listen, we should be following this debate with keen interest. Tony Lloyd, Labour MP, he's got a debate this afternoon in Westminster on the victims and criminal justice system. There are some people who think, well, hang on a minute, that is a lot of money. We could save. Why should we be paying out for people who are attacked in shops or going to work or things like that? But then you do have to think. It's a good way he put it. It's an insurance policy for all of us that we can dip into if we need it. Interesting. 08459 455 555. Now, I went to the pictures yesterday and I had some nachos with cheese. I had the melted cheese, so that's healthy. Cheese, I think, is a vegetable. It certainly counts as one of your 5 a day. And a packet of Revels. It cost me nearly £8. I know. I know. It's expensive. MPs are calling for a cut in the price of sweets, drinks and ice cream at the movies. The Respect MP, George Galloway, and the former Conservative Minister, Sir Peter Bottomley, say they deplore the profiteering by cinema chains, which they accuse of exploiting their customers. They've signed a Commons motion urging them to reduce the prices in line with those in shops and restaurants. Well, BBC Three Counties reporter Justin Dealey has been out to see what you think.
Now, Sean, you went to the cinema last night. What did you go and watch?
Taken 2.
Any good?
Liam Neeson is a very crazy guy, yeah, he's alright.
You see, Taken 1 was good, but I'm thinking, why Taken 2? It can't happen again, can it?
I'd agree with you on that, but I don't know. It was alright. It was good, yeah.
Now, in terms of prices at the cinema, the tickets are obviously quite expensive, but the food is extortionate, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I'm a sucker for nachos, so yeah, it's a bit extortionate, but I'm willing to pay it. I have a loyalty card with Odeon, so yeah.
So you've got this sussed. Even though the prices are high, you get points, and effectively you then get money off when you do buy the expensive chocolate and the expensive popcorn.
Well, you build up your points. For example, last night we didn't have to pay for a thing because we'd been a certain amount of times to gain those points. So.
Okay, so take the points out of the equation. If that system didn't exist, would it put you off going to the cinema?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. It's a bit too expensive. Near enough £10 a ticket, £10 for food.
Claire, you last went to the cinema 2 months ago and you were confronted with very high prices for the food there. What's your views on that?
I just think it's not an enjoyable evening anymore. It's double the cost, so we end up not bothering going at all.
So the MPs have got it right then, that they're saying it should be reduced. If they were to reduce it, that will get you back into the cinema.
I would have thought so, yeah. Definitely.
What about smuggling your own stuff in?
Yeah, more often than not. All the time.
But I suppose your attitude would be, why should I do that? I'm paying to watch the film. All I'm asking for is the same prices that I would get in the local supermarket, probably across the road.
Too right, because like you say, you are going to get people just taking their own stuff in anyway, so why not just be able to capture the market? You've got people there anyway, so if it is cheaper, people will pay less.
Do you work in marketing by any chance?
No, I don't.
You should do. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
That Liam Neeson, he's a crazy guy. I love that guy. Can we get that guy as our film reviewer? What did you make of Taken 2? Liam Neeson, he's a crazy guy. Yeah, I agree with Justin. I can't see the point of Taken 2. I enjoyed Taken 1, but Taken 2... But hey, that Liam Neeson, he's a crazy guy. Sorry, I was saying to Jonathan, you know you've been in a job too long when you're singing harmonies to the jingles, and I'm constantly doing that. New car park charging technology has been rolled out across the 3 counties. You don't need money or mobile phones. You simply drive in, a photo of your car is taken, and if you've registered, the charges can be debited automatically from your account. Convenient? Or is it just another way to monitor our movements? We sent our reporter Victoria Cook to Welwyn Garden City to try out the new Swish Park technology.
OK, I'm here at the Osborne Way car park. This is the car park for the station. It says here, Hunters Bridge car park. This car park is managed using automatic number plate recognition cameras. Okay, let's go in. Well, it says this car park has no barriers and requires no ticket. Just remember vehicle registration and pay at the pay machine before returning to car. Right, it's time for me to pay now, so it's coming up to 10 to 3. I will try and find the picture of my car. Start. It says enter the last 3 characters of your car number plate. So that is HHZ. Okay. And there is a picture of the BBC car entering the car park. So I shall press the picture of the car. £1.50. Confirm. And I will be paying with my bank card. Confirm. And that's it complete.
That's okay. That's the one. £3.50.
So how do you find this system?
As long as we can remember our registration, it's all right.
It's okay, actually. It's better than getting the ticket and then losing it or sticking it in. Yeah, I like it.
How do you feel about the car park having a picture of your car and sort of having that information about you on their systems?
Yeah, I've got no issue with that, really. You know, I'm not a criminal, so I'm not worried. They can have what information they want on me.
I don't find it too bad, but then I think people that do find it struggle can be here for ages, and you can see them then getting quite concerned about the people behind. It's a bit annoying, really.
How do you feel about the machine and the company keeping pictures of your car on file and keeping your information?
To be fair, I'm not overly bothered because it's everywhere anyway. There's so many cameras about. Who doesn't have your information at times?
Is it just another camera?
Yeah, you get so used to them.
About it.
Yeah,
it hasn't even occurred to me that
it's
even kept.
I hate having to... When you have to queue up and pay in the car park, you forget it. You get in the car, you get to the barrier, I forgot to pay. I think it sounds fantastic. I am using a lady's deodorant today, because it was all I could get, and I'm sweating a bit, and now I smell like a really nice girl. I do. I'm sniffing going, there's a nice girl in here. No, there's not. It's me. I'm going to be wearing ladies' deodorant from now on. We were talking about Gary McKinnon and the decision by Theresa May not to extradite him. And in St Albans has emailed him. I'm one of those pleased at Theresa May's decision. It's not the whole answer to inequalities in the America-UK extradition arrangements, but I hope these will now be addressed seriously. I have little doubt that due to military sensitivities, here we get into conspiracy theories, the Americans would want this to be in secret, whereas we want it in an open court. Also, the amount of security needed to protect American witnesses, i.e. targets, from America's many enemies around the world would be immense, at the British taxpayers' expense to boot. And thank you very much indeed. Now, as you know, dear listener, if you listen regularly, I'm not a football fan, but I wish I'd watched the football last night, the grown-up one, because it didn't happen. And I turned on I had a little doze in the afternoon, in the evening, turned on my phone, and Twitter was ablaze with people talking about what a farce it was. England's World Cup qualifier in Poland washed out after heavy rain, and an open roof, they had a roof, led to a waterlogged pitch. Well, it's been rescheduled for 4 o'clock this afternoon. Mark Napper from the England Supporters Club is from Hertfordshire. Mark, you were there last night, were you?
I was very wet.
Are you back in England now, or are you still out there for
No, I've managed to book another flight for tomorrow, so I can stay for the match today. Unfortunately, my flight tomorrow goes back to Stansted. My car's at Heathrow, so I'll have to sort that out when I get back.
You really are dedicated. Did you notice if there was an increase in the price or anything? Because we heard from one correspondent saying that some of the airlines had cashed in on this and put the prices up a bit.
Well, I'm not sure, but we got ours. I phoned a mate at home and asked him to book a flight for us quickly. It's so much easier to run on the mobile in pouring rain.
Yes.
And I know the price doubled within about 20 minutes after we'd already booked our tickets.
Oh, lucky you. What happened last night, Mark?
It was a joke. I mean, it had been raining all day. It started raining by, I don't know, sort of 2 o'clock, and it was predicted to be torrential rain.
Right.
And it was getting worse and worse and worse. And then within about 2 hours of the match, when everybody was walking to the ground, so about 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock UK time, it was just ridiculous. All my clothes are still absolutely soaking wet.
Wow.
And so we got there. We just couldn't believe they hadn't closed the roof.
So you got there and you assumed that the roof would be closed, and you get into the stadium and see it's wide open.
Yeah, and they made no announcement at all. The only way we got any information was by phoning friends at home and asking them what was happening. So
they didn't say any. Sorry, I'm confused. They didn't say anything in the stadium. You had to phone up someone in England who told you what was going on.
So they had one screen. They said that they did say the match was going to be delayed, and then another hour later they said there would be an announcement at 9:45 or 8:45 English time.
Yeah.
But nothing else. You just saw people coming out onto the pitch, throwing a ball on it. There was no way they could play the match anyway. And then we found out from people at home that they can't close the roof anyway because it's too dangerous. It had so much lying water on it. So the whole thing was just a farce. And it was just ridiculous. And then, of course, pandemonium getting out of the ground. This is suddenly letting 60-odd thousand people out all at once in driving rain, and they weren't geared up for public transport, taxis or anything.
And I guess 60,000 people who perhaps weren't in the best of moods as well.
No. And very wet and very cold. We've been soaking wet for like 3 hours, and I mean, it was almost like, jumping into a river or something. I've never been so wet in all my life.
I just
but there we are.
Why? And have you heard any reason as to why they decided not to close the roof? I don't know, at 2:00 when it started to rain a bit.
No,
there's been no explanation.
I was looking on websites today, and all I can see is that the Polish FA didn't want to. Why on earth they didn't want to, I don't know. And the whole thing is just ridiculous. I came out here on Monday and I looked on Sunday, and the weather for Tuesday night was predicted as torrential rain.
Yeah.
So it didn't creep up on anybody. No.
Have you spoken to any other fans? Are the majority of them staying there, or I guess a lot of people have had to come home because they can't afford to stay there?
Yeah, it's a bit half and half. I mean, obviously you get a lot of fans that come out for the day. There's about 600 of those, I believe, come out for the day, so they would have missed everything, so they went home last night. About half the fans I know are staying, and of course some people weren't due to go back till Thursday anyway.
Right, okay.
But yeah, you're right, and there's a lot of people who either can't afford it or work. Or the worst thing, which we've got, is there's no rooms in our hotel. So I've got to try and find somewhere to stay now.
You got nowhere to stay?
Yeah, I've got nowhere to stay, no.
Mark, you fool. Was there any word about if the people who went last night and can't go again, will they get their tickets refunded? Has that been addressed?
I believe so.
Right.
I believe so. I was talking to Kevin Miles, who's in charge of the England fan club, last night, and he seemed to indicate that there may be some refund, but only maybe.
Right, okay.
There's no decision on that. But yeah, I mean, it is pandemonium. The nice thing is it's a nice sunny day here today.
I was going to say, the weather's all right, is it? Is the match going to go ahead today?
Yeah, I'm looking out my bedroom window before we're chucked out of the hotel, and it's nice and blue sky. There we are.
There you
so
go.
It's not too bad.
And listen, I don't know anything about football. England v Poland. Were England going to win?
Yeah, I mean, Poland are a good team. They're not a great team, but they will be difficult at home. Of course, the one funny thing is that they would normally have very passionate fans, but I presume a lot of those fans are going to be at work today.
Yeah!
So you don't know how busy the stadium's going to be.
So it could be quite a bit. Mark, listen, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the day. I hope you find somewhere to sleep.
Yeah, fingers crossed, mate.
And that's... Sorry to laugh at your illness, but is that cough the result of the wet weather?
Yeah, it is. I feel not good, let's put it like that.
Go on, listen, it's nearly 10 o'clock over there. You're allowed to go and have a little shot of whiskey or something to make you feel better. Mark Napper, who is from the England Supporters Club from Hertfordshire, and he was out there last night. He's there today. He hasn't got anywhere to stay. I can think of better places to be homeless for the night than Poland, to be honest. I mean, it's going to struggle. And bless him, he sounds terrible. That little cough at the end gave it all away. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. I wish I'd bothered to turn on the TV and have a little look. Apparently, Adrian Chiles, who, for some reason, a lot of people hate Adrian Chiles. I don't know why. He's quite personable, was he? I think a lot of people hate him when he left the One Show, and he kind of took that big money deal of ITV, which never quite worked out. I've met Adrian Chiles. He's very, very pleasant to me, very, very decent man. But apparently he was being hilarious last night with, his kind of dour outlook on life. But yes, I missed it, and in many ways it's the one football match perhaps I wish I'd made an attempt to watch. By the way, if you missed a call earlier on, we had a call from Vera, who was a silver poet. She won a poetry competition. She didn't. She came second. But she was... how can I describe her without being rude? A character. Yes, that's what she was. A character. Was wonderful and a cracking good sport. If you missed that, I thoroughly recommend that you go to the Facebook page. Go to Facebook, find BBC Three Counties Radio, and we will put that phone call up as an audio boo. The highlight of the show for me. Listen to Jonathan Vernon Smith, because he's going to... You know that recording of Justin Lee Collins? He'll play you it. What terrible, terrible use of the English language.
Beds, hearts and bugs talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Iain.